We are live. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming along to our Q&A night. Literally to answer any questions. This is what, if you have any doubt anyone has or anything they want to know about the event, so don't hold back tonight and just fire anything up. We've got a key panel that's sorted. So I'm going to fly across to Brett to start off with.
Yeah, so we'll just introduce a couple of people. So we've got Gavin Jackson here, he's one of the race directors, along with myself. Then we've got Chrissy Redwood, the 2017 100k winner. We've got Emily from Ujiji. She's got if you've got any questions about socks or blisters and things like that. And we've also brought in Dr. Peter Fowler, who's a sports scientist and specialises in sleep and recovery from the recovery room in Kiwana. So it's a hot sort of race, so he knows loads about all heat adaptations and a little bit about it, but mostly about recovery, which I'm sure most people with their training will need. So that's basically it. So what we thought we might start to do while everyone's thinking of questions, the first sort of thing we wanted to talk about was mandatory gear. We always get asked about that, and is it mandatory? Well, yeah, it is.
Brett, can we just, if anyone on the live stream, can you just let us know?
Oh yeah, give us a thumbs up.
Because we don't know what the audio is like on there.
Yeah.
So if anyone's watching, if you can let us know, that'll be good.
Is anyone giving us a thumbs up?
If there's nine.
Just a big.
Those guys you watching.
I hope the internet doesn't crash. So have you got a thumb there, Simon?
No, but they'll tell us, I guess, if they don't hear us.
Yeah, they will tell us.
You just got to...
Stick your thumb up, Simon. Alright, so we're going to hand over to Gavin. So with the mandatory gear, we don't have a huge list, but we do have a list. So.
Okay. Has anyone got a question about the mandatory gear? Because I know you've all read it on the website, right?
There's a question on here.
There is a question, okay.
Yeah.
I'll just run through it quickly, okay? It's pretty simple. Mobile phone. It doesn't have to be that pretty. Okay? Preferably on your bib you will have 4 phone numbers that you can contact if you need to ring, so that you can put those in your phone. Water. Everyone must have the capacity to carry 1,500 mils or 1.5 litres of water. If you have a vest, that will carry 1.5 litres. If you want to carry bottles, you obviously need to have 3 of those. Okay, that's 50 and 100k. Compression bandage. If you don't know how to use a compression bandage, you can go onto the website under the safety thing. It tells you how to bandage yourself if you get bitten by a snake. We've never had anyone bitten by a snake. We don't expect
Why have you
anyone
got a
to.
snake on your t-shirt?
That's a rainbow serpent.
That's a rainbow serpent. It's totally different. They don't like it. You need to carry one of these, and you need to know how to use it. There's a little brochure on the website, and it's pretty simple actually how to do it. I won't run through it because it's simple. If you want to ask some detailed questions, we'll have medic guys there to explain that as well. High-vis vest. Got to be an Australian standard high-vis vest for day and night, which will have those orange, this sort of stripes on, so we can see you at night time. And
Can I just say, Gav, with the vest, anywhere at night time, you'll need that on the roads because a lot of the back parts are either forestry roads, which are a road, or a road to the finish. So that'll have to be worn by dark, and the checkpoint crews will be checking that. So,
so from 5 o'clock onwards, you need to stick that on. And a torch or headlamp. You know, there's 1,000 types. Brad will sell you lots of them if you want. But you need to be carrying that. So for the 100k runners, you need to carry all of that gear with you right from the start. The only difference to this is the 50k runners don't need to carry those 2 items until after 3 or from 3 p.m. onwards. The reason is that other than about 6 or 8 of the 50k runners, they all finish in the daylight, so they don't need to be carrying that. So from 3 o'clock onwards, they definitely need to have it on there. 100k runners, there's only about 8 or 9 of them that actually finish in the daylight. Everyone else is in the dark.
Hey Gav, we've just got a question on the live stream. This is from James. If we have a wet, wild forecast, will a jacket and pants be needed?
We have that on, I'm just getting to that, good question. We have recommended gear as well, okay? And the recommended gear is protective clothing like a rain jacket. No, I've got one here somewhere. There's various sorts of rain jackets. Thermals, things like that to keep yourself warm and dry. At the moment it's not mandatory gear. We could make it mandatory gear if the weather becomes extreme. It'll have to be very extreme. But we know you're all sensible people, and if it's raining you probably put a rain jacket on and keep dry. Okay? We had people a couple of years ago, they had their wet weather gear and they finished the race. A lot of people had to pull out because they didn't have it, you know. So most out of 5 years we haven't needed it.
Yeah, we had one wet year where the temperature dropped really quick. I think it was only about still 19 degrees, but it was coming off like we had 36 degree days and people just went hypothermic. So we've tried to keep our mandatory gear to a minimum, and it's basically from a safety procedure and it's to do with permitting. So that's basically where we're at with mandatory gear.
So it's not mandatory, but it is recommended to have it there just in case.
Just a quick question. So the recommended gear, not the mandatory gear.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Is that allowed to be handed to you?
Yes, from your
On-
checkpoint.
Okay.
From at one of your
So you don't
checkpoints.
have to have it the whole
You don't
time.
have to carry it. No. Other recommended gear would be a space blanket. Just in case something happens to you, you know, to a knee or an ankle and you're sitting on the side of the road and it's a bit cool and you need to keep warm. That's a safety thing. Chrissy's a good one for that. She can explain how she needed one for someone else actually.
I did.
The ETA.
Well, just somebody passed out and I needed a blanket.
Yeah, so it is recommended, not mandatory as well. A drinking cup. This is a collapsible drinking cup. There's different types of these. If you go to a checkpoint and you want to drink something like Coke or whatever that you're not going to stick in your backpack, you will need a cup. We don't have cups on site on any of the checkpoints, so you will need to carry that. If you choose not to take that, you can't obviously drink this stuff because you got to what it is. It's pretty simple. That's about it, really, for mandatory gear. It's pretty simple. It's only a very small amount that you have to carry. So, not like you two.
Yeah.
Any more?
So is there anything
Yep.
on that?
Well, that one, the two questions we had here, you covered the one. So in the 50k after 3 p.m.
Yes.
And then this is not about mandatory gear, but it's a question about doing the first ultra. It's from Kimmy Ray.
Yes.
Are there any creek crossings? Should I leave dry shoes at a checkpoint? So,
Well, maybe we can throw that one for you, Chrissy. You've been on the track enough.
I think you've been on it more.
Probably.
I've never got my feet wet, but that's because I go over the big rocks and try not to get my feet wet. Other people will just like hammer. Well, if you pull out, he would just run through.
That's what I pulled out.
So you can, so sometimes it just depends. It just depends. But,
If you were going to leave dry shoes, you'd probably leave them at checkpoint 4.
they'll probably be dry by the time you get there anyway.
Yeah.
We've also got Mark here, who's a accomplished 50k runner. What do you just go through the creeks, or do you try
I
and
think
box
I've
to it?
been known. You've seen me go face deep in some of the runs on the BOI nightfall, so it doesn't always work, but generally just go through them. And I know people are training for the 100, they put shoes out. For the 50, it's the amount of time that you're out there. But if you get your shoes wet and you start getting blisters 3 hours into 100k, I think you'll probably regret it. So it's not really an issue for 50k. 100 you might want to, but you're probably not going to use them.
Yeah, maybe socks are probably have a replacement pair of socks if you're going to have anything, or a good pair of socks.
The amount of stuff you take, you're not going to use, but you know it's there.
Yeah, be prepared. Like if it's your first time, like just have everything. Like think of things. If the weather's going to be great, have dry weather, wet weather gear, just in case. Like Brett says, why let something like leaving the grain jacket at home costs you finishing the first ultra. Like, just be prepared. Bring everything. That's what I do.
Just to let you know too, Mark, when he talks about like you don't spend much time out there, he's finished in the top 3 about 3 or 4 times. So in a 50k, so he doesn't spend much time out there anyway. So just to let you know, he's only out there just over 4 hours. So yeah. So if you've got any questions about running fast, here's your guide too. So yeah.
Eventually.
Oh, we do?
No. My mobile coverage, if we're carrying our mobiles,
Yep.
is there mobile coverage on the whole course?
Not on the whole course, on probably about 75% of it. Probably in the lower part of Gerald Valley, you won't get much. Once you get up to the top, you will. There's a checkpoint roughly every 10 kilometres and a water stop roughly every 10 kilometres. So, and there's enough people coming by if something happens to you.
Everyone's got a phone.
And everyone's got a phone. As well as the sweepers are very close to the back end of the field, so they will collect anyone that's in any stress or
Mm. Yeah.
anything else on that? Yes.
Just on the mandatory gear for the 50Ks,
Yeah.
would you recommend having that at checkpoint 3 or checkpoint 4 if we're not like this guy and out there for a bit longer than 4 hours, but maybe a
Okay,
lot
so
longer?
checkpoint 3, you're at about 20, a bit under 20k, about 18, nearly 19 kilometres. So
Yeah.
it depends how fast you go.
Okay, so
Your
we
next
better
checkpoint is another
Is it
18
38?
or 19 kilometres
38.
away. So it's up to you where you get to, how long it's going to take you to get there.
Okay.
I wouldn't have thought that you would get to checkpoint 4 in the dark in the 50k unless you were going
Really slow. So probably better putting it at checkpoint 4 because you've got to go out and do that loop around
Yes,
and then come
so
back,
you're about
don't you?
37.5 kilometres
So-
at checkpoint 4.
yeah.
So if you
So if you don't need it the first time at checkpoint 4, when you come back
Yeah.
around that loop, if you
Yes.
think you're going to need it for that
Yeah, yes,
trip
correct.
for the trip
Yes.
home,
Yeah.
you can pick it up then.
Yeah.
pick it up there,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else on the mandatory gear? That's all good.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions coming through there, Simo?
Just double check.
What else you got on that?
While I'm talking, I'll just quickly go through the course markings. They haven't changed much, they've just got prettier. If you see one of those at an intersection, that means you follow it. Okay, it has the silver stuff in the middle because it reflects at night time, so you even with your light will pick it up a fair way away. So basically you follow that arrow. Okay, you see one of those on the track, you don't go down there. It's pretty simple. There'll be one of these around about every 250 to 300 metres. They also reflect in the dark. If you haven't seen one of these for, I don't know, 10 minutes or more, you possibly could have gone the wrong way. We haven't really got anyone gone the wrong way yet, but yeah, we should do that.
I know somebody who has. They got lost for about 5Ks to come back.
Right out. So if you haven't seen one of these for about 10 minutes, possibly you've gone the wrong way. That's the course markings are pretty easy. Okay.
There's a couple of other big points there too about parking. We have no parking at the QCCC, and that's purely for safety because there's so many people in the event coming in and out. So the parking is at the Mapleton Community Hall, and it's 31 Obi Road. There's a massive sports field out the back. You can park there, and it's about maybe a 600 or 700 metre walk to the start finish.
Yeah, 400.
Oh, 400. It's funny when people get
700 afterwards. It's 400 on the way.
it feels like, yeah, a lot of people seem to worry about the long walk there. I'm thinking, well, you've got 50k ahead of you, so you should be right. Yeah, treat it like a warm-up. Yeah, and that's just purely a safety thing, so you'll see the signs there for the parking. You can just go up the back and sort of just, the Mapleton RSL will run that, so yeah, it becomes a fundraiser for them.
What
So.
about for Friday night from
Yeah.
the park for check-in? Can you park in the event precinct? No? Still no?
No, you're about to park at that same
Same.
wall as well,
Same
or on the
place?
street.
There's just too many people that
Yeah.
come in and out, like, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's not
so,
right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there was that. Of course, drop bags. We always have fun every year with drop bags. People with plastic bags and little Ziploc bags.
Okay, plastic bag.
Don't do that. Hold that up again so that they can see that.
Yeah.
So
Any sort of plastic bag that's
no go.
can't seal or whatever. It's
Stuff
not
goes
bag.
everywhere. We just can't do it. The best thing you can use are these shopping bags.
Something like that. It doesn't have to be from this person that's not our sponsor. Yet.
Just
But
cover
one
that
of
thing.
these shopping bags are quite good because they zip up. On the top, oh Joe, you're in the race, I see. You can write your name on the top. We need your name on the top because it really makes it easy.
Have you got that there?
Yeah, there is.
And you'll also be sent your number out probably on the Monday before the event.
Yeah.
If you can just write your name and number on it,
And
just
checkpoint.
makes and checkpoint, yeah, that'll make it so much easier.
Then we know that it is going to the correct checkpoint. They have to be at QCCC Friday by 8 o'clock. Not 8 o'clock at night, yeah.
Yeah.
You need drop bags or someone hands you a pair of shoes in the morning and you can quickly slip them in. That can happen too.
Yeah.
Brett, can we just loop back quickly, just from the live stream?
Yeah.
Kim just wants to confirm the particular high-vis vest, so it has to be Australian standard, right? How do we check that on a high-vis
Have it on
vest?
the label? Just on the label there?
Walk up and show it on the screen, yeah. You'll be able to see that.
Yeah, come this way.
Yeah, you'll be able to show the actual AS number.
Oh, you might be able to. Yeah.
So generally, where would we pick one of these up?
Bunnings.
Bunnings?
Yeah.
Aldi had some
See, it
a
has
while ago.
Australian
Yeah.
standard.
They're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Aldi had some.
Sweet, thank you. And then
$6 or $8.
then the other question was, at the hall and parking areas, are there toilets there?
Yes,
Yeah,
there
there
is.
is, yeah.
And they have them manned.
Yeah.
They'll have people there to show you where to go if you.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
there's
was actually speaking to them today. So
Yeah.
Hey Brett, can I just quickly touch on the bags?
Yeah.
As a runner and a checkpoint crew, bigger the riding, bigger the number, the better for
Yeah.
everyone.
And the other thing I'd suggest is if you got like those bags, because there'll be a lot of them, put something on there that you can recognise, like a bit of ribbon or whatever, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Be creative.
Definitely
So-
what Ammon said.
It helps just
Big
be
name.
Quicker for the crew and quicker for the runner.
As you run them through checkpoint, they'll see your number. Have you got a drop bag? They'll grab it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture of your face.
Yeah.
As you look at that point, or as you look
Take it after a long run.
yeah, this is what I look like.
Oh yeah, for the spectators and crew, that's we've got more questions coming.
Okay.
So for the spectators and crew, especially going out to checkpoint 4, there's no cars allowed out there. So we have a shuttle bus that runs from 9 AM to 9 PM that goes every 15 minutes, and that's out the front of the QCCC. So you just walk out the gates, basically on your way up to the car park. You can jump on a bus there. It'll take you out. It's only 4 kilometres, so you'll be there in about 5 minutes, if that. And that brings us back and forth all day. Anyone who's in the 100k after 9 PM, your crew can go out there later on at night. So it's just to not block the national park up. It's just a very sort of shallow road. So just if you can keep that in mind.
Just touching on those checkpoints, Brett, Wendy wants to know, can your support crew bring your bags for you, or do you have to
Yes,
load them
yeah,
out? Yep.
we'd actually prefer that.
Yep.
So if you've got support crew, get them carrying all your stuff. Makes it a load easier because it's just a huge job for the checkpoint crews.
And Sharon asks, does the event only get cancelled if there's lightning?
What takes the event to be cancelled, I guess?
Well, I think it'd take a lot after what we've been through a couple of times. So
Bushfires.
basically, we've had a bushfire. Well, it wasn't a bushfire. It ended up being a bit of a controlled burn, didn't it? From what started as a fire, but yeah, we monitored that the whole time with national parks, and were able to run. That was 2016, I think. And then 2017, we had 13 inches of rain the week before the event. and then a couple of inches during the race. So, and that didn't cancel it. So, yeah, to take a fair bit to cancel it. So, would lightning cancel it? Well, I guess, yeah, thunderstorm would cancel it, but yeah.
There's another one here from Chloe. She said, Mark, you've answered the questions. Can you go home and help feed the twins?
Nice. That's fantastic.
You said you were working late.
I'm not here.
So the other one was for the crew was at checkpoint 5, which is run by the Nutters.
Best checkpoint ever.
About 250 metres before that checkpoint, we asked crews not to come past that. There'll be a sign that just says basically no crew or vehicles past there. It just blocks that checkpoint up like no tomorrow. So last year we trialled that and it worked really well. And it just allows those checkpoint crews, because that's at 70 and 80 kilometres, to be able to look after some of the runners that might be in a little bit of trouble so that they can get to the end, and also to make sure that we're watching the ways they come in and out there. So just if you could be mindful of that and sort of, you know, just follow those kind of rules, it just makes the race much better for everyone.
I think at checkpoint 5 they do have a designated place for the crews and families, don't they? So,
Yeah.
there's a
And if
designated.
you don't follow it, we will be strict.
Thank you, Eamon. Yeah. So there you go. So that's that checkpoint.
There's all the information for the crew and spectators is on the website. It's you know, it gives you the maps of how to get there if you're driving there, as well as the rules and regulations. Some of those things with your crews and that, just remember if you break those rules and drive into those areas, we can have your run at DQ, because it's actually putting everyone else into danger, you know, with vehicles driving into some of these areas.
Yeah. And speaking of DQ'd, with regards, I'm jumping back to mandatory gear. With that mandatory gear, we'll do random gear checks, and if you haven't got the gear, you'll just be pulled out of the race, because it's part of our safety and permitting. We have to have it. We've had a couple of events, like we kind of think everyone's over 18, so they should sort of be adult and just carry it, but it looks like they don't. So naughty. So we'll there'll be random gear checks around the course. So unfortunately, that's sort of how it's going to be.
The way I look at that, Brett, is if I'm carrying the gear and somebody else gets in trouble and they don't have the gear, they're screwing up my race, because I'm obliged to help them out, and it's like, just because they haven't bothered to put a bandage in.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And it's not hard, it's not much, so yeah, if we can just sort of keep that in mind, there will be random gear checks throughout the race. That's pretty much from us. So we've got Emily here from Ingingi, who's going to talk a little bit about, I guess, foot care and...
Yeah, I'm a qualified podiatrist, and I work for Ingingi, so I can field any questions that anyone's got about, I guess, foot health, blisters, socks, anything like that. We also happen to sell UD, so if anyone's got a question about vests and that as well, I can answer those. Does anyone have anything to kick us off, or do you want me to start with anything? Any questions?
What do you think about the wet shoe question?
The question that came up before. I think the suggestion of having something there in case you need it is probably a good one, particularly for those who are going to be out on the course for a lot longer. As you say, you don't want something trivial like that, or just not putting it there to prevent you from finishing your first race. So, or any ultra. So, basically, having at least a spare pair of dry socks there is definitely a good option for people if they happen to get wet feet from a creek crossing, or if it's raining, or if they're having trouble with blisters and just need to change it up. That's definitely a good suggestion. With regard to blisters, probably the main 3 factors that will cause a blister: moisture, friction, heat. So basically, running a long distance isn't good for contributing towards those factors. So in terms of I guess your sock choice is very, very important in terms of managing that as best you can. So making sure you're wearing a sock that has a very technical component to it. You need it to fit your foot really well, to ensure that there's no movement. Preferably some sort of moisture wicking material, so Coolmax. Some people prefer a natural fibre such as bamboo or wool. It just depends a lot on the climate. Generally up here in Queensland you're better off with Coolmax, but something that's going to draw the moisture away from your feet. And the other one is heat. So again, eliminating by having those factors with your sock, friction can obviously build up heat, and also if you're not drawing the moisture off your feet, then they're going to get hot as well. So yeah, you want a sock that's going to fit your feet really well, and draw the moisture off. With the fit of your shoes, that can obviously contribute to having too much movement as well. So you need to make sure that your shoes are fitted correctly, that preferably that you've got enough space in the forefoot. If your foot's too cramped, particularly over a longer distance, that can tend to get pretty uncomfortable as well. So in terms of socks, obviously Brad's got a good range in store here. Being from Injinji, I know that toe socks are a really popular choice for everyone, or for a lot of trail runners. Benefits being that you've got no skin on skin friction. So because you've got the 5 separate toe sleeves, nowhere for your skin to rub. They're also a seamless construction, so again, nothing on the inside of the sock that's going to irritate your foot. The trail are a Coolmax sock, about 35% Coolmax. They've also got a 5% Lycra component to them, which means that they are going to fit to feet of all different shapes and sizes. Conform around your toes. They're really good with wet and moisture as well, so even when you're curling your toes, you don't get any bunching of the sock through the sulcus or anything like that. So it does, honestly, Injinji is a very, very popular choice for a lot of ultra runners and trail runners. I think something like 65% of the field at UTA were wearing some version of Injinji. So if you haven't tried them already, particularly if you tend to have trouble with blisters, that could be a good option for you, and definitely worth a try. The other product that can be really, really helpful for your feet, but anywhere on your body as well. Yeah. So Body Glide. If you guys haven't seen it before,
it's a lifesaver.
Yeah. Put it in your pack. Recommended gear. But essentially, it's a natural formula derived from plant extract, so no irritation, obviously no skin allergy, no skin irritation. It also means that it doesn't sort of stain or damage your clothing. As Brad said, it's a lifesaver. It's really, really handy to put in your pack. You can use it on your feet for preventing blisters. You can use it anywhere to prevent chafing, hot spots.
Literally anywhere.
Yeah. And you should never share Body Glide. But if you want to share, that's what this one's for. Because it's a cream.
After 9 p.m. it's fine.
The cream, if you're looking ever, is a cream. So if you're sharing with someone, make sure it's this one, not a balm that they may have used anyway. If you haven't seen it before, these are just samples. Again, if you want to try them.
Use the green one.
Yeah, use the green one. Basically, it's a waxy sort of formula, really easy to apply. As I said, chafing from pack, bra strap, heart rate strap, between your thighs, under your arms. If you happen to chafe on your inside of your knees, like I do, you can use it there.
Fantastic for your bum crack.
That's a good one.
Shit.
Men's nipples. You can use it anywhere.
Fantastic.
So put it on beforehand, wherever. Yeah.
Dylan.
You should be able to
I'm not allowed to say it, I'll probably get in trouble with this.
You carried it in your pack, or did your crew apply it for you?
Mate, I put enough of that sort of stuff on to bloody, I nearly need a screen on my bum. I've had chafe on my bum once and gee whiz.
never again.
Yeah.
Handstands in the
I'm like
shower.
a Japanese flag.
But because body glide's absorbed into your skin, it means that it stays effective on that area that you're trying to target as well. So as a comparison, I know some people will use other sort of oil-based products, for example, Vaseline. It can stain your clothing, and B, it can tend to sort of wash off or rub off after a short period of time. Body glide, I can attest, it lasts at least sort of 8 hours. So yeah, but put it in your pack. You might save someone else, or you might need to save yourself. Yeah, that's all I sort of have in terms of running through stuff initially. But if anyone has any questions,
So if you get a blister, is it better to pop or leave?
well, that is a good question. During the race.
Yeah.
It depends how painful it is. If you continue running and there's quite a lot of pressure, it'll probably pop by itself anyway. If you are generally you're better off to leave it, unless you're able to pop it with something that's sterile. So generally you would want to heat up like a needle or similar and burst it that way, and then be able to dress it so that you're reducing the risk of infection. So, but again, if it's pretty painful and relieving the pressure you feel will relieve that pain, then yeah, I would have a go at popping it, but make sure you're treating it like as soon as you can after the event with some podiatry attention, because there'll be a fair bit of that in the medic tent, I imagine, at the initial. Yeah. I've seen some really good pictures from Oxfam and other trail events as well. So, yeah. Sure.
All right, so we've also got Pete here, who, as I said, was a sports scientist. So one of the things that we have at our event is normally heat, and I was chatting with him the other day, and we were talking about heat adaptation and things like that. So Pete's from the recovery room at the Sports Hub at Kiwana. So he can give you a bit of a rundown of the recovery room if you'd like, and then a bit of adaptation. If you've got any questions for Peter, he's wealth of knowledge on recovery and sleep, or recovery and sleep. So over to you, Pete.
Thanks, Brett. I thought I'll probably start with what the hell is a recovery room. As Brett said, we're at the new Sports Hub in Kiwana. So what we've got there, we have our Normatec compression therapy boots. You might have seen these space age looking boots doing the rounds on social media. If not, I can talk to you about them after, or you can ask some questions about those. We have a big area in there for, it's called our mobility zone. So basically for active recovery, we want to stretch, release, activate any tight or sore muscles. We've got cold and hot water therapy, so we recommend different protocols there depending on how you're feeling. If you're sore, fatigued, or just a bit tight, we have our infrared sauna, which I'll talk about a bit more when we come on to the sort of heat adaptation stuff. As Brett mentioned, so I did my PhD or specialise in sleep and recovery for athletes, so I also do sleep consultations and monitoring for people that want to optimise their sleep for performance. I thought I'd just maybe touch on a few sort of key concepts around recovery. So the first one being, unfortunately we can't sack off our training, we still need to do our training. We still need that stimulus, but it's not the training that's making you fitter, faster and stronger, it's the adaptations that are occurring during that recovery period that are doing that. So the key there is, it's hard these days with apps like Strava and messages like go hard or go home. We're sort of encouraged to sort of log more and more Ks. But the problem with that is if you're not allowing sufficient time or doing the right things during your recovery period for those adaptations to occur, then you're kind of almost logging sort of junk miles that are breaking you down rather than sort of building you up in terms of your preparation. So the second key kind of concept there is probably quality over quantity. I'm not saying go completely the other way and do no training and heaps of recovery, because that's not going to prepare you the right way either. But in terms of making sure you're doing quality sessions across the week rather than just, as I said, logging the Ks and sort of potentially inducing fatigue, overtraining syndrome, things like that. So overtraining syndrome is basically caused not by too much training, but by insufficient recovery. The other sort of key concept is sort of the periodisation of recovery. So similar to how we would periodise our training, we also want to look at periodising our recovery. So there might be certain times where we want to actually avoid recovery or remove recovery to promote adaptations, and then other times where we really want to be on top of our recovery to make sure we're fresh for that sort of key session or key sessions during the week. And then just to touch on sort of the final point in terms of like heat acclimation, heat adaptation. So what's the temperature like during the race?
Last year I think we were low 30s, weren't we?
Yeah, but real humid.
I think it's the humidity in the
hot and humid. Mid 30s sometimes.
Yeah, so basically, so obviously we have the facilities at the recovery room that can help support sort of all those things that I just mentioned. Like if you want help with periodising recovery around your training program, that's a service I also offer. Obviously the compression therapy, the hot and cold water immersion, infrared sauna, mobility zone can help boost your adaptations from your training. But in terms of the heat adaptation, I would thoroughly recommend that sort of leading into the race you're doing some sort of training or runs in the heat, and then we can basically use the hot water and the sauna as passive heat acclimation stressors. So basically during your taper period, you need basically probably 8 to 14 exposures in either a sauna or our hot pool to promote sort of beneficial adaptations, cardiovascular and thermoregulatory adaptations that will help you perform in the race. So in addition to the stuff that you might be doing outside in the heat, you come into the recovery room and then you can use our facilities during that taper period, 8 to 14 exposures, to make sure you're adapted and ready to run in the heat.
How long should these exposures be?
Yeah, that's a good question. 30 minutes or more. Yeah. So we offer 30-minute sessions in our infrared sauna, but we can also do that in the hot pool too. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions sort of specifically related to recovery or what I've just said?
With the Normatec boots, couple of things. So heat can vary, obviously, how long the period is that you have them on at each session.
Yep.
So is there an optimum, like 45 minutes, or if you've got the time, is more better? You understand what I mean?
Yep. Or
what would you sort of gauge for? And also, you got like your different pressure settings.
Yep.
Everyone's different. Some people say like 4 is the most they like, or do you take it? Is more pressure better once again? Like the more that you can comfortably stand, is that better? What do you think on that?
Yeah, good question. So the research at the moment showing that level 4 to 7 is best for recovery, so promoting blood flow, reducing swelling, inflammation. I don't think there's anything I know that shows more is better. So it's basically what feels good and comfortable to you between 4 and 7 in terms of recovery. In terms of the duration, on heavy training days, you're looking to build up to around 60 minutes. Like if I don't know, like a long run day on a weekend or whatever, then after that, then 60 minutes plus. On a regular training days, 30 to 45 minutes. Looking to get that amount of time in them. So again, we offer 30-minute sessions and 60-minute sessions in the recovery room. To allow for that.
I'm just relaying a question that's been asked to me because I've recommended your place since I went in there because I think it's a really cool facility, and I've worked in inflammation and research, but in a clinical setting.
Yeah. And
you get some people that will go all in on that sort of thing, and you get some people that won't ever touch recovery mechanisms like protocols, because if inflammation's happening, it's part of their adaptation. So how I thought you'd probably be able to answer it much better than I can. Where to draw the line between letting your body do its thing and versus using a protocol to help you optimise?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's probably two camps at the moment. One camp is, so the research is showing that particularly cold exposure following strength training can or may blunt adaptation.
Yeah.
Following endurance, high intensity interval training, no problem.
Yeah.
But following strength training, perhaps.
Yeah.
So there's some people that and then that's why I talked about the periodisation of recovery.
Yeah.
So, for example, like a team sport, if they're doing any sort of strength training during the week, then they might want to actually withhold from recovery following that session to promote adaptation.
Yeah.
Just lost my train of thought. So for endurance training, it's fine.
Yeah.
Cold exposure. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
I was just drawing where to
sorry,
set yourself.
that's it. Yeah. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
So that's the one camp. So they might withhold recovery in certain scenarios. The second camp is basically that quality over quantity kind of camp. So if you do withhold recovery during that period, it's likely that you might not be able to do that subsequent sessions as good a quality as the first one.
Yeah.
So for example, if you do a session at the start of the week and you're not doing recovery between any sessions during the week, then your performance is probably going to go down like this over the week. If you're doing recovery between each session of the week, and your performance stays like this across the week, you're doing each session to the best of your ability, and that's what you need. You need that stimulus for that adaptation too.
Yeah.
So I approach it with sort of a bit of both, I guess. Yeah, there's certain times that I would recommend. Sorry, I approach it sort of halfway. Like, I don't say completely avoid the cold. I just reduce the intensity of the cold exposure. So, for example, I would just, if we're doing contrast therapy, I just tell them to spend less time in the cold if I want to try and promote adaptation.
Yeah.
So I kind of do a sort of half-half approach based on the current evidence. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense.
The thing I normally say in response to them, because I don't know so much in that area, is that if you start to train tired the whole time, you're more likely to get injured as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't want to be injured going to Blackall. It's rough enough as it is.
Exactly. Yeah. I think probably the other thing I didn't mention as well was probably the two, before you ever even sort of worry about stuff that's in the recovery room, the two sort of keys for recovery are nutrition and sleep. You really need to sort of nail those two first before you worry about the sort of icing on the cake stuff. And in that regard, we're kind of looking at now, how can we use the stuff that we got in the recovery room, especially like, for example, the cold water immersion. If that's reducing soreness and improving someone's sleep, then that's how it's another benefit of it. Basically, we want to see how can we use what we've got in the recovery room to improve sleep. Is our number one sort of goal.
I've got a question here for you, Pete. How close to after a training day, long run, would you recommend the heated dash and a hot pool? Like the next, I guess, straight in the next day, or leave it?
Yeah, I did. So it depends whether that runs in the heat. I probably wouldn't do it on the same day as a long run. But so again, what the research shows is that you should probably do the passive heat adaptation in combination with your training. So if you're doing like a training run, then come in sort of straight after that, and then do the heat adaptation as soon as possible afterwards.
And if you've had a long training
run, probably the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then obviously hydration is key around all of that. Yeah. Making sure you get sufficient fluid. Yeah.
I had a question. I can't remember what it was.
Can we talk about the adaptation? Why it's usually about
No, yeah. So that's what I kind of meant during just to clarify, during the taper. So those 8 to 14 exposures are on consecutive days. So you're obviously not,
Fly runners don't taper for 14 days.
The timing is the time.
It's the timing. You don't want to do it now because it lasts for, I think, like a week. Basically, is the decay of it. So you don't want to be doing it too far out. But that's why I sort of mentioned, like, as it starts to warm up, you want to be starting to do some runs in the heat as well. Yeah.
Tends to come around where you train and do your work in the cool weather, and then Blackall comes along, and then it spikes, and you go out and run in the stinking hot. That's normally what happens.
Yeah, you're not gonna do yourself any damage going out at 10, 11 o'clock, and then if it's a cool race day, it's just a bonus. Like, rather get out sort of later in the day. Times at least.
That's why it's in October, mate, for all that fun. So was there any more questions for Peter or anything like that? I mean, he'll be here afterwards if you want to talk to him. Anything?
What about post Blackall, Peter? You're going to have to have security at the door there.
Well, ideally we pack it all up in a car, and well, that's what we want to do eventually. But
are you open on Sundays?
We're currently not, but we could definitely consider doing that for post Blackall for sure. Yeah.
I think there's a bar next door for you, Simon.
We could set up a bar in there as well.
But Monday's not too late. Like, on the Monday.
No, yeah, Monday's not too late. Yeah.
I only finish on the Sunday anyway.
So I'll book you in now. Is that
Get you up the list. Okay, so we've also got Chrissy here, as I said, who won the 2017 event. So if there's any questions about the event, she's been on the checkpoints, and she's had a good race, and she's had a rough race, and so so I guess she's experienced all of the stuff that happens at Blackall. So if you've got any kind of questions you want to fire to her, she's got a wealth of knowledge. Oh, here we go.
Or if you don't, that's fine too.
How do you handle all the fame?
Is that Chrissy Redwood? I'm not, that's not a real question.
She gets stopped in the streets for autographs and everything.
Not
Yeah,
a
it's
real question.
crazy. Yeah, is there anything there? Like, anyone want to ask any questions of Chrissy?
Probably a common one, I reckon, is like, say you're doing your 100k, what's a training weekend going to look like? Are you going as far as 80k on a run, or are you doing
Training
back-to-back?
week or weekend?
Well, yeah, say a week or a weekend, like, what would you?
A week I tend to do 80 to 100, just depends. On the weekend, I like to do back-to-back, so I typically will do like 30, 35 on a Saturday, and then a couple of hours on a Sunday. So just depends, but other runners will do a 5-hour or 6-hour on a Saturday, and then nothing on a Sunday. So it just depends what you like. I prefer to do the back-to-backs because I get injured more if I do bigger runs, but yeah, I do about 80 to 100, but that's just, it's normally just 10k a day with a Monday off, you know, and then bigger runs on the weekends, and that's split into different sessions, so hill sessions and tempo sessions and things like that.
So do you train specific sessions then for specific parts of that event?
I make sure I get out on the course as much as I can for,
Yeah.
for the longer run. So the longer run we try and get as much the same vert that you'd have in the race, so 400 meters per 10k, something like that.
Yeah.
But typically we just go out. I mean, I did bluff reps on Saturday.
Yeah.
And but in the rest of the week it is a bit. Sometimes the runs are really easy and it's just flat and running's running.
Yeah.
And other times it'll be speed and stuff on hills in Noosa National Park, and
Yeah.
it just depends.
Yeah.
Say those like 2 back-to-back long run
Yeah.
days, Saturday, Sunday, how far would they
So Saturday would probably be 30 to 35, but it's typically about 4 hours. It's more time rather than distance, because if you've got more vert in there, you're not going to cover it, so it just depends. And then on a Sunday, like this week, because I did a big run on Saturday, I just went and did 10k on the flat, so it just depends. But yeah, usually a couple of hours, but it could be going out to the Kalula Bin down loop and doing a couple laps of that, so it just depends where I'm at, and if I've had a big week before, then the next week might be a bit easier. But there's loads of training plans online that you can usually find, and just pick one and consistency.
Chrissy, how much of your own nutrition do you take, and how much do you rely on the checkpoint nutrition?
I rely on my own the whole time, but I run on gels, so it just depends what works for you. It just depends what works for you. But also, you know, sometimes that doesn't work. Tarawera last year was awful, and it was an awful race, and I got to the point where I couldn't take one more gel, and that was probably only 5 hours in, so I resorted to eating whatever was at the checkpoint to get me through. So it just depends. The checkpoints can be good, but we've also had experience from another checkpoint where people, in chow down and then throw up down the road. So I think you have to have a plan, whether you're relying on the checkpoint, you know, go in knowing what you're going to have, because you only need a certain amount of calories per hour, you can only digest a certain amount. So it's just going in, having a plan, and not just going up and going, oh, that looks nice.
That's one of the things that we find is one of the funniest things. People tell us how they train with hardly anything, and then come race day, they've got like this smorgasbord. I don't know what happens. People have some sort of brain snap and think that they need to eat like sizzler amounts of food, sort of thing, you know. And all of a sudden we're dealing with, well, not me personally. By the time they get back into me, they're, you know, come good. But at checkpoints, there, you know, people can vomit and stuff because they've just got too much in their stomach. So yeah, that's always of interest to us to see how much food and coke they want to drink. And but just speaking of nutrition too, we actually just for those that want to know, we use a local company called Infinite on our course. So that will be the electrolyte that we use around the course. So Infinite's been with us now for a lot of time. So if you want, you can get that in store here if you want to train with it. But that's what's going to be out on the course. So that's
the actual speed, is it? That's the blend you're using?
Excuse me. Speed, that's a bad substance. Yeah, no, that is the speed there. Sorry. Yeah, we use the speed. Yeah. Sorry, had to be done.
Chrissy, how long typically would you spend at a checkpoint?
Oh, that was my question.
It depends. If I'm going well, as few minutes as possible. If I'm chasing someone, definitely a little less.
Yeah.
But if you need that recovery, sometimes it's good just to sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and actually spend longer. But you can actually finish a race, and I know many of my friends have done this and worked out that they'd have finished an hour or two. So it just depends. It just depends what you actually need. But there's no point in rushing. Like I fell last year just before checkpoint 3, and I didn't take the time to get it all repaired. So I ran into checkpoint 4 needing it, and yeah, I should have done it. I should have spent longer at that checkpoint. So yeah, it just depends.
And it's quite good fun with all the checkpoints. The checkpoint crews that we have, all the running clubs from Girls Run This Town, Sunco Run Co, Brisbane Trail Runners, and the Nutters. Is that everyone? That's everyone. They're really a big part of the event. We have a load of fun, and they all have a load of fun with you out there too. So it's probably hard sometimes to move out of the checkpoints because they're like really cool people. So you'll have a lot of fun with those guys. We think we've got the best checkpoints in the world. Best checkpoints in the world. So yeah, that's about that.
Hey Chrissy, for people who are going to spend a lot longer than you out on the course, have you come across people who really benefit from like a change of clothes or something somewhere along the line?
Yeah, even people who run it quite quickly like to change their clothes later on in the race. But yeah, I think some people do. They benefit from that. Especially, it depends how much you sweat, whether it's raining, and things like that. But it doesn't hurt. I always dash some stuff, and I've usually got way too much. They're probably dragging my bag along the floor when they're trying to carry it. But it doesn't hurt to have it out there. You've got that option.
Sorry.
I was just thinking about you with the gels going 100k. Do you not have anything with just gel?
If I'm going well, it's just gel.
Really?
And some tailwind. I think that. So
So before the run, what would you eat?
Before the run, I just get up in the morning, have a muesli bar and that's it. A banana and some apple juice. Yeah.
Brett, we've just got a quick question about the Infinite course. That's got electrolytes and carbohydrates, or just electrolytes?
Electrolytes.
Yes,
it's got carb as well. Yeah.
You mentioned 3.3.5.
Which one's that up the top? The water stop?
Well, we have two extra water stops, not checkpoints, water stops.
Oh, there's a water stop at Filbert Valva. That's been there for a few years, but there'll be one at the top of Uber G too. No, just beyond Uber G, about 400 metres past Uber G, because we actually have a course change as well, so that's a good question. So for those that know the course, you used to run back along Leafy Lane, back into checkpoint 4. There's a big sign now that says Mapleton Day Use Area. You're going to go left there and go back into checkpoint 4, and the checkpoint has moved from the day use area into the horse float again. So that was just something that helps the flow of the event. will relieve a bit of the congestion. So yeah, so that's.
The distance is still the same. We haven't shortened it for you.
We're trying to lengthen it. Yeah, so no, it's exactly the same distance, 2.1k. So, and in Condalilla Falls, instead of running along the top now, we're allowed to run along the bottom, so you get a really nice view of this little creek down there. So that's really cool. And we're allowed to use that bit this year. So very exciting. Yeah.
We've got a good question coming in here from Kim. This is probably good for Mark, Chrissy and Simon, because we've got all abilities here. We've got...
Can I ask a question before you ask a question? So where are we going with the abilities here?
What's the difference between them?
Simon,
have you gone 100k yet?
No.
Hasn't gone 100k yet.
Yeah.
Do you hike or run the hills in the race? We'll start with Mark. Yeah, up.
It's not. I don't think. Although I don't know. I didn't see Ben for the second half of the 50. So
This is Ben
was, yeah, he's unreal on the hills. I would say that everyone will walk at some stage in the race, and if you try and not walk, then you're just setting yourself up to fail. So like sections like the bluffs, or I don't know, what's the other hill coming up? Yeah. I work on times when I try and go up them as hard as I can and just put myself through it, but then other times you try and figure out what's actually realistic on the day, because the bluff, for example, is really early in the 50. It's like under 20k in, and if you go all in on that hill, then you're in for a pretty rough rest of the race, because there's some really nasty little climbs on the loop out by Days area, and they come at like 38k, and you don't want to be completely dead, which I was actually last year on those hills, because you just walk all of them. So I reckon I spent about 40 minutes walking in the race.
Probably would have won.
Probably would have. Yeah. I was saying that if I didn't run, if I didn't walk, I would have won. But everyone could say that because it's hard. And I remember looking. Ben signed up on the last day of the entries, and Ben's a very, very accomplished runner. And you know, think, oh, I wonder what he's done on the hills, and what's he done on Strava this year? Climbed 176,000 meters of climb so far, and it's October. And I was like, yeah, that guy knows how to run hills, and he probably still walked a ton. Yeah, you will walk, so prepare for that. Even on the flat, prepare to walk, because if you're out there 6 hours, 7 hours, that's a very long time if you're coming from, say, a marathon. And most of us have walked in marathons as well, so yeah, plan to fail, because otherwise you'll fail anyway. But you'll fail happily.
I hike the hills.
The hike, there we go.
I hike the hills, but in the first half of 2017 I walked every hill, up until the second half when I decided if I wanted to win I had to run. So yeah, so generally you will hike a lot of the hills, and it still doesn't do you any harm.
No. And now to the elite runner of the group.
I hike the inclines and I walk the hills. I did my first Blackall 50 in 2015 as I planned, and literally as you get out of the gate there's a hill, and I started walking like inside the first K, and I reckon 40% of the field was walking with me, and it's not, I walk every single hill, always have, always will. If you've got nothing, I've got nothing to gain by trying to run. I'm not going to get to the end if I try and run any of the hills.
The thing is, if you hike it properly as well, though,
yeah,
you generally will catch a lot of people that are running up it, or when they get to the top, they haven't got that ability to start running again. So you'll hike it and then you can just start running again.
And we do, and I learned it from Brett. We practice hiking as much as we train in that running. We train to hike. So you just, unless you even as much as even Ben's gonna walk, guaranteed you're gonna walk at some stage. So just be at peace with it and get better at walking than at running, really.
There's so much runnable, like there's lots of very runnable parts of the course, and if you come over the top of one of those hills and say you were planning on running a 5-minute K on the flat, and then you've gone all in and saved yourself a minute on the hill, and then you're dead on the next fairly flat next 10K, then what was the point in even, going all in on the hill? So there are lots of flat runnable bits, and when you do them in training, you realise how quick they can be. So you may as well, and they're at the business end of the course as well. The last 4K is on the road. So if you're chasing someone, then that's the time.
You spend months telling everyone how you're going to go and run an ultra, and then you go and walk the ultra, and then on the Monday you tell everyone how you ran the ultra. That's the way it is.
While we're on hills at the moment, James wants to know, do many people use poles, particularly on the hills? Who uses poles? Anyone?
Yeah, I used poles last year from the bottom of the bluff.
Yeah, I haven't seen loads.
We did a few.
Not many trekking poles, really. Yeah.
I didn't in the 50Ks, but I did the 100 last year, and I used poles all the way from the bottom of the bluff to the finish. Although it's still bloody beer.
Yeah. I'd be saying if you're blowing loads of air at the start of the race, slow down. That'd be my go, because everyone goes pretty quick at the start, and then slow down towards the end. You see it all the time, like going too quick at the start. So I'd say that, just being mindful of how much air you're blowing when you're going. That's about it, really.
It's the downhills as well. And the 50K, there's a really, you go down from Uberg within 10K of the race, and you can blow your race going down that hill, because it's a quick downhill if you want it to be, and that can wreck your legs completely. And then you've got to go on the technical bit, and then you find out when you try and go up the bluff, and you've got nothing. And again, that's a long time. So it's just, you just need to be ready to walk really at any stage, and if you're just not comfortable, you're going to be out there for a long time, no matter how quick you are, so just take your time.
And if you come to the Thursday night with Dean, he'll talk more about that too. So he's a big component of that, isn't it? Run when you can, walk if you have to, and crawl if you have to. Something like that. Anyway, he'll talk more about that too.
So what's the Thursday night? Is that a shop run or something, is it? Or?
No, that's a night with Dean Carnassus at the Marucci RSL, the ultra marathon man. Thursday the 17th, yeah.
No,
Thursday the 17th of October.
Before the race.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
We've got a question from Melody here. Mark and Chrissy, do either of you guys change your socks and shoes in the race?
No, I've not needed to. I've never taken any, but then again,
Mark's had some good fitting shoes.
And I think I'm pretty sure both years I wore in Gingy toe socks as well. I've not needed to. 1 year was really hot, 1 year knee deep in water at parts. Yeah, I've not needed to. But it goes down to bring it with you if you're not sure. You can always access it.
I always take extra shoes. 1 year I did change, and that was on the last, from the crew had been down, it was the last 30K, and I changed into road shoes because my feet were hurting, and just made it loads nicer. But last year I got a bit freaked out because there was some water, and I gave Cameron some shoes to stick in my drop bag, and I didn't change them. Didn't need them. But yeah, always stash a pair and just decide. But socks, again, I wear the Gingies and never change them.
Is that all the questions?
Yep.
And then finally, we've got Brad from the running company, so I know we're going to come out and just, Brad will sort you out for shoes if you've got any, So you've got gear here and all that for the event, so if you want to give yourself a quick doesn't seem to be any more questions, is there, coming through?
I've got one.
Oh, you got one?
Yes. What's the time limit for the two distances?
23 hours for the 50 and 24 for the 100.
Yep.
So we know that you can walk the 100 in 24 hours.
Yep.
We've seen it done, so listening to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So we know it took that long to, listen to the trilogy apparently, so yeah.
Did you have any idea how the Blackall course compares to the Gold Coast Coding Challenge course, like in terms of
elevations and.
Oh, the Gold Coast course is way hillier.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Ours is probably the heat is the thing that is I guess would be the difference because they're in winter. Yeah, so yeah, I would say that it's just it's hillier and there's a couple of big hills, so yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a view there. There's a view there.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there any other question? Yes?
Is there any groups getting together and going out and doing parts of the course leading up?
There's absolutely loads doing it at the moment. If anyone's watching out there and you're on the Blackall 100 discussion page, if you want to put them up on that, and then people could maybe meet up that way. Because I know that there was one with Brisbane Trail Runners on the weekend. These guys are regularly up there, but you guys are working pretty hard, aren't you? Like you guys are running pretty fast, aren't you?
Oh, it depends.
No, but I mean generally, like.
Look, we put them up on the Nutter pages.
Yeah.
If they're group runs, and the Brisbane Trail Runners have them out there as well. I think the Brisbane Trail Runners have got a few more runners than us, so they tend to have the different abilities out there.
Yeah.
But if you just look
When
at
we
the pages,
post ours though, we will sort of post a time and a rough kilometre, so that way you can sort of gauge your speed and whether you're gonna keep up or whether it's not the right.
Yeah,
but no one ever gets left behind on any of those.
So
there's loads of people out
there.
Yeah, there's been loads out there recently. I've been out there, and there's loads of people out there. So I think there's people out there at night now.
Yeah, I think, but like you said, the best thing, Brett, on that discussion page, like if you want to go out, just put it up there and say, Wednesday, Sunday, whatever it is, and there's always somebody that's on a different roster to be able to jump out.
And if you happen to be on the course and you notice any trees down or any problem with the track, can you just either, I think there was
The email address is on that discussion page.
Okay, or just even put it in the discussion page so we can see it, because we can let parks know, because they actually want to know if there's problems in the trail there. So
take a couple of photos.
Yeah, a couple of photos, and then just post it on there, and we can just sort of forward that through to parks, because they want to know about that stuff. So yeah.
Can you just get them to flatten the block a little bit?
Might get Gav to do it with his dozer. Yeah. So obviously then we've got Brad here, who's a huge part of our events now. So maybe if you want to give yourself a plug and wind it up, that'd be good. Because I'm done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Can I ask who's running their first 50k? First ever 50k.
Wow. Loads of people. That's awesome.
How many Blackalls have you run at?
That's awesome.
How many of you guys are? Dylan.
No comment.
You're on it.
Dylan, you've done
250s and 2 ones.
Yeah. So it's an event that everyone gets addicted to, as you can see there. This will be my fifth year. So every year except the first year. So it's just such an awesome event. You're so well looked after. And it was my first 50k. And like you just, with the checkpoints and everyone out there, like you're just in such good hands. And the people that are out there all like you can see the good atmosphere tonight. That's what it's like on the course for everybody. So we really are in for such a treat, like seriously good treat. So
yeah, come up on the Friday Arvo too. There's food on site. There's a local musician that's just fantastic that you can sit around out in the grass, hang out with everyone, and sort of get in the atmosphere. Dean Carnassus will be there from
there's still a few tickets available for Thursday.
Yeah, there's still a few left. He'll be there on the Thursday night, and then there'll be a welcome to country and all that sort of stuff. So it's a pretty cool arvo on the Friday
There'll
as well.
be dinner on the Friday.
There's dinner there. Yeah. There's food available all weekend and throughout the QCCC.
Can you camp out there?
You can't camp there. So there's only the. Yeah, there'll be a briefing at about 7. Just before 7.
Cool. Sorry, Brad.
That's all right. How many numbers are we looking like this year, Brett?
We've kind of got record numbers already, so
entries will be filling up.
They're filling up. Yeah, we've got a few extra spots this year. So if we're on last year, we're basically sold out with last year's permit. So
record,
yeah, pushing up towards
So we should end it soon.
Look, we've got an extension on our permit, so there's a few more numbers there this year. But yeah, if it was last year, we're basically just about gone. So yeah, which is fantastic.
Price increase coming up, isn't there?
Yeah, on the 19th of September. We want to try and get everyone in as soon as we can. So
it just makes it easier to like cater and do the shirts and all that sort of stuff. So keep planning to run.
Yeah. Over to you, mate.
Right.
We're finished.
If anyone's got
Thanks,
any
Brad.
questions of gear, anyone needs anything for the event, obviously you can see the store. We've got plenty of gear and a wide selection of trail shoes to try. And everyone's different. Not what works for one person works for everyone else. So it's where trying a heap of different shoes, especially on your feet, getting something comfortable for the event is really important. So. If you're looking at trail shoes and anything trail related or road for that matter, just drop in and have a chat to one of myself or one of my staff. We'll be able to help you out.
That's it.
That'll be it.
All right, well, thanks for everyone for coming. And if you've got any other questions, you can throw them on that discussion page and stuff like that. Yeah, thanks for being a part of it. And we can't wait to see you all in October. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. So we're going to have a good year this year. So. We do every year anyway, so we're going to have heaps of fun. So, yeah, good luck everyone.